Good evening, we are Craig and Janice, and we have the Cruising Off Duty channel, where we sometimes show you places we've been in the Caribbean to get away from those cold Canadian winters, doing things like scuba diving. We've chartered catamarans, and before COVID kind of messed up the travel plans, we were often going to boat shows and doing reviews of catamarans because that is the boat we're going to buy next. When we replace the boat we have now, which is a 35-foot monohull, which is perfect for being our floating cottage for the summer as we go around the Thousand Islands, which is a beautiful cruising area for power boaters and sailboaters. And if this area entices you, then go back and check out some of our old episodes that covers this area in detail. But the multi-part series you're about to see is us circling Lake Ontario, and there is a ton to do. This is my marine navigational chart, and you can see I've put little orange anchor symbols at every possible spot. Criteria for these spots would be it has to be somewhat populated, so when we get there and we go to shore, there's something to explore. And we'll tell you whether it's somewhere you can provision by just walking from your boat to a grocery store or whatnot, or if you got to take a scooter, my EUC, a folding bike, or some other way to get around. That might be important because if you're a boater and you don't have a folding bike or whatnot, you're really kind of hamstrung into only going to what you can walk to, which is really limiting. So highly suggest you get a folding bike at least. We're going to tell you what we found in the area, whether there was stuff to go explore, whether it was very visually stunning, or whether kind of boring. We really liked most places we went. There was very few exceptions, so yeah. You're going to like this series. And keep in mind, we do a full circle of Lake Ontario. So even if you're not starting where we started, which is Kingston, you started some other part of Lake Ontario, you can still follow this series. You'll just start further into the series and then continue all the way around until you've done the full circle as well. I sometimes have to remind myself not everybody watching this is from North America and may not even know where Lake Ontario is. It is the 5 Great Lakes that border between Canada and the United States. These lakes are the largest bodies of fresh water in the world. You can see them from space, they're that big. As you can see, Lake Ontario is probably the smallest one on the east end. It joins the St. Lawrence, which goes to the Atlantic Ocean, and that St. Lawrence is where the Thousand Islands is, which is also near where our boat is housed in Kingston. So let's get going with the episode going from Kingston to Belleville. So if you want to travel in a circle around Lake Ontario, your obvious choice would be just to go right out into Lake Ontario and go west along the North Shore in this case. But the problem is you're going to be pounding into prevailing headwinds, and the waves, by the time they get to the east side of Lake Ontario, those westerlies will make those waves on the east side really big and really nasty. So we always go the inner passage, which is through the Bay of Quinte, and we stop at the end of the first day in Belleville. So that's what we're going to show you. But there is an alternative to leave from Kingston and go right out into Lake Ontario. But there's really not a good spot to anchor along there until you get to about Coubourg. So that's a really long day of pounding. So I would avoid that. As you can see, Navionics is saying it's 46.8 nautical miles and it'll take 9 hours and 15 minutes. Just so you know, that's based on a 5-knot speed. That's a sailboat kind of cruising speed. If you're a powerboat and you're doing 15 knots, well, obviously you can cut that to 1/3 of that, be a little over 3 hours. If you're a powerboater, you can definitely do this circle much quicker than 5 weeks. But we're a sailboat, and 5 knots is a reasonable cruising speed. All right, leaving Collins Bay Marina. We always plan, I don't know if you're the same, you always plan to get out real early. It's 8:15, I wouldn't consider that real early, but early enough. I guess these swans are used to boats. They didn't even move at all, even with the babies. Even with the babies, they didn't move. As you can see, it's super glassy. So this is going to be a motoring day. All wind estimates are for really calm, actually a calm like 3 days in a row. So unfortunately, we got to get to Toronto. Oh, in case I didn't tell you, we're going to Toronto for Canada Day for fireworks. So yeah, so you can see some people out there. There's some anchoring. But yeah, there's no sailing going on today, unless things change. You see those windmills over there? Let me zoom in a bit. Yeah, you can definitely tell the wind is coming from a nice beamy direction. So I thought, well, just to see if I can get any extra speed, I put my Genoa out. As you can see, not really doing much. We're going faster than the wind. So yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention our newest addition. Well, we've owned the iPad forever. I got one of these GPS, I guess antennas that's Bluetooth enabled. And it talks to my iPad, which is not a Bluetooth enabled iPad, or sorry, a GPS enabled iPad. So wow, look at all the screen real estate. Usually I had my phone mounted in this. Problem is when you want to use your phone, then you're not using Navionics. So now we've moved to iPad. We're in the 21st century, and there's just so much more data in the corners with all the screen real estate. So very cool. Well, the wind has certainly picked up. You might even be able to hear it on the microphone. So I show you what we're doing on Navionics, 6.8, 6.9 knots. Now we still have the motor running, just the Genoa out, not the main, because the wind is kind of up and down, but making good time. Originally when we left the club, said we were going to be there at 4:40 in the afternoon. We're going to be there at 3:15. We're making up some good time. The trimaran flying a home. These things move. Getting closer and closer. We're heading down the same area, but this angle is just a little bit to the right of my approach angle. So he's getting closer, 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 and we're going to eventually catch up to that sailboat up there. I'm pretty sure he's sailing, not motor sailing, so I've been catching him with just the Genoa. If he's sailing with both sails, then good for him. It's just the wind's been so up and down. As you can see, it's not super windy, there's no white caps, but the sail does help. Yeah, he's definitely sailing, I'm assuming, no motor. You know, they say whenever there's two sailboats going the same direction, it's a race. The only thing is our boat's such a slug. No surprise, right, with all the crap we put on it. Laden down with all sorts of water, drinks, full fuel tanks, full water tanks. So we almost never pass sailboats sailing. The only reason we're passing this one is because we're using our Iron Jenny and then our regular Jenny as well. A little bit of extra momentum. But yeah, good for him. Sailing. It's a beautiful day. It was calling for rain all day, and somehow or other it's turned into the opposite. I can't complain. One new style of filming I'm going to do this series is hyperlapse. It is really just time lapse with motion. It's a very cool look. It lets you see the passage of time, the clouds going by, the beautiful scenery along the way, without boring you with minute by minute real-time sailing. So I'll use that, incorporate that a lot into this whole going around Lake Ontario. I think you get some really cool views, especially going through canals and other tight spaces where you see the scenery going by. I also wanted to cut in here and say, yes, I know I'm not sailing with my mainsail. One thing I've learned after many years of being a sailing YouTuber is sailors love to critique other people sailing. And I know I'm getting comments, why aren't you sailing with your main? If you have enough wind for your Genoa, you could add your main up, and that would have been, maybe you wouldn't even had your engine on then. Yes, I get that. I told you in this series, I'm going to try and take the most direct route and the most speedy route. Oftentimes that means not always the most optimal angle to the wind. You're either almost nose into the wind, or you're going dead downwind, and when you have the motor on, you almost have no apparent wind. So that's part of the reason. The other part of the reason is the in-mast furling main is the bane of our existence. In this case, it is jammed, and I'm afraid, or we're afraid, to take it out while we're sailing, because you could get it halfway out, it gets jammed, and now you can't get it in or out. And then you have this, what do we do now? We're going into a harbor with half or three-quarters of our sail out, and we can't get it back into the mast. Later in the series, we actually figure out what's wrong with it, and we completely remove the sail. It was permanently damaged and unusable. We needed a new sail. Does not really change the fact that we were planning to go the most direct route. In this case, we're going west through the Bay of Quinte. We're just about to go past Picton, and then we're going to turn and go north towards Deseronto, and then eventually turn back west. So you're going to see us sailing, and then not sailing, and then sailing again, and that's because we keep changing angles, and sometimes it's, again, not the great apparent wind angle. You don't want to go nose into the wind, and you don't want to, I'm not tacking, forget it. Janice and I tend to treat this boat like a floating cottage, so whatever gets us from A to B the quickest, and sure, if we can sail and save fuel, we will, but sailboats are really efficient on fuel anyway, so we can practically motor all day long and spend like $5 in fuel. So fuel economy is not really that important to us. Getting from A to B in the quickest, most efficient way without heeling the boat at 45-degree angles and having everything inside our boat go flying around. That's the number one thing for Janice. She does not like things going flying around. So in case you are a hardcore sailor and want to sail every minute of every day, that's great for you. Not so much for us. As you can see, we're actually using the sail pretty well here. It's pretty tight. We're doing about 7-8 knots at times. I mean, the motor alone would have given us 5, and then you add another 2 to 3 just by having the sail out. So it does help. And yeah, we're making great time. Another reason we wanted to motor and sail to get the maximum speed is because we could see a big storm was forecasted for later in the day. And believe me, it was a big storm. We get slammed around pretty hard. So we were trying to get all the way to Belleville in the earliest amount of time possible to try and get tied up to what we thought was a safe cement wall before the storm hit. And when you saw that hyperlapse of where the sail switched from the port side to the starboard side, that's because we've gone from going southwest to northeast as we head towards Deseronto, and then we'll turn again west to go towards Belleville and race to get there before the storm. One good thing about going the Bay of Quinte is not only are you not exposed to the big waves on Lake Ontario if the wind was to pick up or a storm is coming, but you also get to people watch or cottage watch. And Janice has always got the binoculars out and checking out all the cottages and houses along the way. The rich and famous ones are always kind of cool to look at, where they got gazebos and glass cathedral ceilings and all that. Kind of fun. Anyways, that's one thing to do while you're just killing time for 9.5 hours or whatever it's going to take to go from Kingston to Belleville. You get some nice views along the way. Okay, at this stage, we're getting pretty close to Deseronto, and that's where we got to do the big sweeping turn towards southwest again, almost, towards Belleville, and you're going to see us changing our sails from a starboard tack to a port tack. And then once we get that turn, you're going to see us go under a bridge, then you're going to see the storm clouds starting to roll in, and then you're going to see us get pounded by a storm. As the day was going on, we started to think about where are we going to go. We usually anchor in a bay just east of Belleville. I mean, we're really just trying to get to Toronto as quickly as possible. We've seen Belleville a bunch of times in the past. In fact, we've done episodes on Belleville, so go back and check that out if you're interested. But with this storm coming, we started seeing things like high winds of 60 plus knots, a hail the size of golf balls. And we were like, yee. And if you look at our sail, we're going downwind, right? So it's coming from behind us. The anchorage we were thinking of would have put a lee shore behind us. And we were like, whoa, we don't want that. So we thought there is a cement wall that's kind of a visitor wall on the inlet to the harbor of Belleville. We thought, well, that would protect us because the cement wall, if the wind continued in the direction it's going, we'd be blown off the wall, not on the wall, at least we thought. So we decided to go the extra distance and get to Belleville, which in hindsight was probably a mistake. At this point, we're still in a good mood because we've made it all the way to Belleville before the storm, and we think we're going to tie up to a nice, safe cement wall. But things go bad, so let's switch to the more ominous music. And now that our sails are down, it's kind of hard to tell what direction the wind is coming from. But you'll see in a second, the wind is definitely blowing really hard at this point off the cement dock. So I'm about to do a little U-turn here. We forget there's a chain here because Janice jumps off expecting to be able to lean back and hold the boat, but there's nowhere to lean and she cannot control the boat and it blows off the dock. We'll tell you more about that in a second. I have to do a U-turn. The wind is really blowing hard at this point. She gets a guy who's just walking by to help her. She ties it on. I get the stern tied. Yeah, we think, yay, we're tied to the cement dock and the wind is blowing off. We should be great. Not so much. No, we're just moving the boat. I thought for a second there we started sliding. But believe me, the wind is really picking up and you're going to see the hyperlapse of the storm coming, and it got nasty. And worst of all, the wind switched 180 degrees coming from our left to our right. And it goes from bad to worse. But at this point, we think that's the worst that happened, that we almost lost our boat blowing off the dock. But no, more's coming, but let's explain that first. Okay, we made it to Belleville, barely, just in time. We'll just pan around. See, I don't know if this camera does it justice, how dark those clouds are. Big stuff on the radar, big wind. Janice learned a lesson. If you saw the hyperlapse, you would have seen the boat get to dock and then just blow away.
You didn't hear me screaming, hurry up, get back on the boat.
Get back on that boat.
You missed that part.
Yeah, hyperlapse doesn't have audio. But what did you do?
So I thought I could hold the boat with the line in the middle, but no, the wind blew the bow.
Yeah.
Way harder than I could ever think of.
And she was on this side of that chain, so she couldn't lean back into it with her body. So she was just holding with her arms, and then the boat got away on her, and she let go, and I was still on the shore with the stern line. And she's like, get on the boat! I'm like, what? And then I realized she wasn't even holding on to anything. So I had to jump onto the moving boat and motor around, do a U-turn. And then
I got the bow line that other time.
Yeah, we grabbed the bow line. And we flagged down some random passengers going by.
Any sucker that happened to be nearby.
Grab a rope!
Can you help?
But yeah, we're here. There's supposed to be hail, high winds, everything. So we'll let you know if anything crazy happens. Okay, so we just checked the radar. Earlier, it was saying we were going to get missed. We're that little blue dot, of course. Now look at the red. Going to go right over top of us. Yikes. Well, thank goodness we're tied to a cement wall here in Belleville. Yeah, I wouldn't really trust being anchored in this. That's where the sky looks okay. That's where the sky looks not so good. Then again, the cameras never do it justice. They always lighten it, that auto white balance, but it is very dark. Now here's the hyperlapse camera that's mounted outside our Dodger, showing the storm coming. And you can kind of tell that the wind switches around, and now it's not blowing us off that cement wall, it's blowing us directly onto it. I'll let you see the hyperlapse for a bit. And then I have some live footage that I shot of Janice frantically out in this blowing rain, trying to push the boat off of the cement dock. I know, I tried to convince her that was silly, but she wasn't listening. So yeah, you're gonna see that as well. And even though I knew it was futile, she was not listening. So I had to drop the camera, which I was filming inside, and go out and help her. And in this rush to try and help her push the boat off while she's trying to jam down more fenders, I pushed on the stanchion bar, which of course bent it, because you can't push a 17,000 pound boat with just its aluminum bar. So yeah, yay for us, more damage. But let's get the live footage after this. You can hear the wind starting to howl. We're kind of laughing at this one swan out there. Just gotta get him in focus. There he is. One swan just hanging out, eating his seaweed. Not a care in the world. Meanwhile, again, this camera doesn't do it justice. Big, dark, ominous clouds. Okay, this is yeah, a bit crazy. I don't know if it'll do justice because it's all the water on the glass. You can't even see the other side of the channel. Let's see if I can go out here. Oh, I'm gonna get wet if I go here. Yep, camera's gonna get wet. Let's just say it's going sideways. This time it's blowing us onto the dock. When we first got here, it was blowing off the dock. Now we're getting pushed onto the cement dock. So yeah. We're just hoping no ping pong ball size hail, because that would probably do some serious damage to our isinglass. So let's hope. Fingers crossed, just rain. It is windy is crazy. Like I said, I'd love to show you what's going on up front. It's like a washing machine up there. I have a hyperlapse going on my action camera, so it might catch some of this, but I was just saying, I hope our solar panels on top of our Bimini don't rip right off.
I'm feeling very glad we didn't go the Lake Ontario way.
Yes, we've gone the Lake Ontario way. This would be like a nightmare. There's the washing machine I was showing you in front. Janice is checking the fenders are staying down. Fenders.
Like, I checked them, I worried, so they're fine. But...
Look at that's the washing machine I'm talking about.
Oh yeah. Cool. Starting to buck a little more, so I don't know. I don't like that.
We don't have a choice now. We can't go anywhere. We can't move, so we're stuck here. Why does the wind have to be pushing us onto the cement? And now we're starting to buck. Okay. You're not going to be able to push it, Janice. Janice, get back in here. What is she doing? I don't know, man. This is crazy. Janice was out there, she's soaked. I went out, we tried to put another fender between us and the cement. We have every fender on our boat, on this, but the thing is, it's bucking so much, the fenders are lifting up. You see the cement, there's a bit of a lip, and the fender gets caught above the lip.
Fucked up.
Why?
We're gonna get a fucked up boat.
Well, there's every fender we have is there.
Oh no. Hopefully done soon.
Yeah. You wouldn't want to be anchored in this either, though.
No. Should have gone in. I did not think this was...
Well, we didn't know this was coming.
Oh my god.
Okay, the worst is probably behind us, although we do see the radar and there's more bad stuff coming. But the crazy washing machine wave bouncing has stopped, which is nice. We did hear one huge crack You saw when Janice was standing out in the pouring rain trying to push the boat, which I told her doesn't work. Can't push a 14,000 pound boat in 60 knots of wind off a cement thing. But we did hear the boat bounce once and hit the cement. So when it finally stops raining, we're gonna go out and look at the damage. I'm hoping it's just a big scrape on the gel coat, but it sounded harsh, like a big crack sound. So hopefully we don't have a big crack in our hull. You can see it's light over there, but you can see all the lightning still around. It's coming from that direction, and the radar says there's more coming. So yeah. If the wind had just stayed the direction it was, the wind was blowing off the cement when we first got here. And we thought this is a great spot. Yeah, the ropes will hold us from blowing away. But then the wind switched 180 degrees out of that direction and just bashed us against the cement wall, which, you know, needless to say, sucked. Okay, you might hear the light rain, but the big storm is over.
Yay,
Thank
we
goodness.
survived.
Barely. Did you see the footage I started with Janice on the outside in the pouring rain, trying to push the, 17,000 pound boat off the dock with a 60 knot wind?
Just trying to jam one more fender down there. One more.
I'm like, Janice, give up! The boat's too big! No,
It
help
worked
me!
out. We got one more in there.
But after we put one more fender, just dumb luck. The boat was bouncing back and forth, so we timed it and got the fender down. After that, though, we heard a big crack.
A really bad crack. Like it looked like when looking at the window, it looked like the boat was right against the cement.
Yes.
So, and we heard a crack, so we thought that was bad news.
The boat would not only bounce, but it was swinging out away from the line and back into the wall, and we heard a huge crack. Well, we've gone out and looked at the side of the boat. We don't see anything.
Or at least if there's anything there, it's not nearly as catastrophic as I was imagining.
Yeah. I'm thinking, too, it could be that the lifelines were being yanked on by the fenders so hard that maybe the stanchion bar cracked. When she was trying to push the boat off, she's like, come help me! I run out in the pouring rain, I start pushing. Well, there's nowhere to push when the boat's so low compared to the dock, so I was pushing on the stanchion and of course bent it. So I bent it back. So what's that?
This is our own boat. I mean, I feel bad if it's someone else.
Yeah. But anyways, it looks like we got through fairly unscathed, although we thought the worst. Oh, story.
So we thought, okay, we waited for the storm to calm down and thought, okay, it's calming down, it's over. Okay, now is our chance. Like we were soaking wet, drenched, as you may have noticed. And we thought, well, now is our chance to just put on some dry clothes and have a drink and relax. And that's when the firemen come.
We saw a fire truck pull in.
We watched a fire truck pull up, and we're like, wonder what that's about. And so
they're like, are you okay in there?
Craig is completely buck naked. They start knocking on the boat. Are you okay? Are you okay in there? We're fine.
We're like, yeah.
I was at the front of the boat. He couldn't answer because he was hiding in the bedroom because he was buck naked.
I'm like, we're fine.
And I'm like, we're good. I'm like, and he's like, oh, did you call the fire department? I'm like, no. He's like, well, someone did. They called about a boat tied to the cement wall and getting bashed to the cement. I'm like, oh yeah, that was us.
And you know what it was? The yacht club over here probably saw her out there trying to push the boat off the cement wall.
They called to say you were in distress. I'm like, well,
she was in distress.
We have a bit of damage, but no water's coming in.
Yeah, we didn't know if we had damage at that point, but at this point the storm.
We were checking the bilge and nothing was in there.
And the storm was dying down, so we're like, well, most of it's over now. So, but it looks on first blush like we don't have any. We were worried that that's the end of the vacation. We got a big huge hole in the side of our boat, but no.
You know, if it's just a scuff, then we can get that fixed, and
our vacation's not ruined.
And it'll look better. Our boat will look. That side of the boat will look better than it's ever looked, probably.
Yeah, probably.
From our last experience of having someone professionally
do gel coat.
Do our gel coat for us.
All right, so we're off. She's gonna go find a laundromat because we left a few windows not completely sealed tight, and there was dripping in on our clothes. So we got a bunch of wet clothes now.
Yeah, I just don't want to even risk mold, and there are. So the next 6 days, there's rain on the forecast. So we'll never get a sunny day to be able to dry this stuff. So let's just do a dryer. And
then we look like trailer park people if we put everything we own on the lifelines. We look pretty funny.
Like a lot. There's a lot that is want it dry. So it's still clean. I want to keep it that way.
So she's going to go check out if the club behind us here has actually laundry facilities. And I'm going to start collecting all this video evidence and putting it in some logical order. So we'll talk to you later. Okay, that's pretty much the end of episode 1 where we got to Belleville and in hindsight, relatively unscathed, although, man, that was stressful. This is just some footage from the last time we came through in 2021. We did a whole episode on Belleville, so I'll put a link above and in the description of that in case you want to check out Belleville, because we didn't really stop this time in Belleville and do the whole tour. Plus, the weather was kind of crappy, right, as you can see. So, yeah, check this drone footage out. In the next episode, we're going to go from here to Coubourg. In the meantime, going through the Murray Canal, through the Bay of Presqu'île, out into Lake Ontario finally, and then around to Coubourg and inside their protected harbour. And that's generally the rule of thumb with all of our stops, is it has to either be an inner harbour where we can anchor or a yacht club or somewhere where we can get a slip. Now, we are members of the Collins Bay Yacht Club, so on Lake Ontario, there's reciprocals at most yacht clubs. If you're a member of a yacht club, you can go to another yacht club and get a slip for usually a night or two for free, which is really, really nice. So we aimed for those. So if you are a member of a yacht club, whether you're a powerboater or a sailor, just keep that in mind, that you can often book, the day of or the day before, call up and say, hey, do you got a slip? And if they do, great, you get a free slip. If not, you can pay for a marina, or if it's there's an anchorage nearby and that's what you prefer to do, you can do that as well. So we'll let you know how that goes as we circle Lake Ontario. So hopefully you enjoyed this episode. If so, show the channel some love by giving it a thumbs up. Until next time, this is Craig signing off, wishing you safe cruising.
We anchor and hoist the sail.